You had vidIQ open again last night, the search bar sitting there empty, cursor blinking. You typed something, deleted it, and closed the tab before anything became real. You feel like a fraud before you have even moved. But your stuck place is not about laziness or timing or readiness. And until you see it clearly, nothing you try will shift it. Every week your vidIQ tab stays closed. You lose a week the algorithm could have been indexing your channel. What you are about to understand changes that permanently. Here is what you have told yourself is happening. You are not ready yet. The scripts need work. The niche needs more thought. The timing is not right. And that story is very easy to believe because it sounds responsible. It sounds like someone who takes this seriously. But here is what is actually happening. You are not waiting to be ready. You are waiting to be safe. Because the moment you open vidIQ and run a real topic search, it stops being a plan. And safe is exactly where channels go to die. And if you publish and it fails, other people can see it. Have you ever kept a tab closed just to stay someone who still has potential? That is the trap. Not laziness. Not confusion about the niche. The thing you are protecting is the version of you who could have done this. That version is clean, untested, still possible, and starting threatens it. Meanwhile, the channel stays at 0 subscribers. The topic you have been sitting on gets made by someone else, and you watch it happen. The 6 months you spent thinking becomes 6 months you cannot get back. So here's the contradiction you have not answered yet. You already know enough to start, and you are still not starting. There is a name for what is happening inside you when you keep that tab closed. It is called identity protective cognition, first documented by Yale law professor Dan Kahan in research published in 2012. And the name sounds technical, but what it means in your life is very simple. You have a picture of yourself as someone with real potential, someone who could do this if they actually tried. That picture has a price you are still paying. And that picture only stays intact for one reason, because it has never been tested. The moment you open vidIQ and run a real search, the experiment begins, and experiments can fail. And if this one fails, it does not just mean the channel did not work. Your brain reads it as evidence about you. And that verdict, once delivered, is almost impossible to unfeel. Not about a niche, not about a timing decision, about whether you are actually the person you have been telling yourself you are. This mechanism hits you just as hard when you are smart and successful. Sometimes harder because you have more self-image to protect. That is why you can spend an evening refining a niche spreadsheet you will never use, but cannot do a single topic search that takes 40 seconds. The avoidance is not laziness. It is your sense of self doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting itself from a verdict it did not ask for. But here is what matters. By the end of this video, you will have something concrete your brain cannot argue you out of. There are 3 specific tools that do exactly that, and they come from peer-reviewed research, not motivation culture or productivity advice. Most people never find them, and the gap compounds. The first tool is called the Process Self-Decoupling Script, and it comes from one of the most replicated bodies of research in psychology, Carol Dweck's work at Stanford, running from 1999 through 2010 across thousands of participants. Here is what Dweck found, in plain terms. The results were uncomfortable enough that some institutions tried to suppress them. When you believe your intelligence or talent is a fixed thing, something you either have or you do not, your brain treats every test of performance as a test of identity. Fail the task, and you have not just failed the task. You have received a verdict. So your brain, being very good at its job, quietly steers you away from any situation where that verdict might come in. Not because you are weak, because you are wired. Without that separation, your brain will keep pulling the emergency brake. What Dweck also found is that simply naming the effort as separate from the self, explicitly labeling what you are doing as a process rather than a self-assessment, measurably reduced that threat response. The brain needs a new frame. You have to give it one deliberately because it will not build one on its own. So here's what you do right now. Open your Notes app. Skip this and the next two tools will not hold. Write this single sentence and pin it where you will see it before you open vidIQ. I am not testing whether I am good enough. I am testing whether this topic cluster has search demand. That is the whole action. One sentence, pinned. That is almost embarrassingly small, which is exactly why it works. But reframing how you think about the attempt only solves half the problem. The other half is what happens the moment your hand actually moves toward the keyboard. That is a different mechanism, and it needs a different fix. Miss it, and reframing alone quietly collapses under pressure. The second tool is called the Minimum Viable Exposure Ladder, and it comes from behavioral psychologist Peter Lewinson at the University of Oregon in 1974. Research that has been replicated so many times since that it now underpins most of how therapists actually treat avoidance. Here is what Lewinson found. What Lewinson found should make you uncomfortable about every delay. When you avoid something long enough, your brain stops being afraid of the specific thing and starts being afraid of the whole territory around it. You are not just scared of launching a channel anymore. The contamination spreads further the longer you wait. You are scared of opening vidIQ, scared of typing a niche into a search bar, scared of what it means that you have been thinking about this for months and still have nothing to show. The fear has spread. What Lewinson showed is that the only way to reverse that spread is to take one step so small it never crosses the threshold that triggers the fear response in the first place. Not motivation, not courage. Get that threshold wrong by even a fraction and it reinforces. Just a step that is genuinely beneath the level where the alarm goes off. So here is your action, and read this carefully because the constraint is the point. Open vidIQ right now and run exactly one topic search. Do not create a channel. Do not save anything. Any more than that today, and you will undo this entirely. Do not tell anyone you did it. Write what you found in a private doc that no one will ever see. That is the entire task. There is no next step required today. Solution 1 changed what the attempt means to you. This changes what the attempt costs you, which turns out to be a completely different wall. But there is one more layer underneath both of these, and it is the one most people never think to name. This is the layer most people hit and quietly walk away from. The third tool is called the Anonymity Reframe Audit, and it comes from researchers Gabrielle Eddingen and Peter Gollwitzer at NYU, who spent the better part of a decade between 2010 and 2016 studying why you might have genuine motivation and still fail to follow through on the things you keep saying you want to do. What they found was this. Telling yourself you will do something is almost useless on its own. But the moment you sit down and name the exact obstacle, not vaguely but specifically, and then write out a concrete if-then response to it, follow-through more than doubles. Not a small lift, double. That gap is where most channels that almost existed are buried. The obstacle stops being this ambient dread you carry around and becomes a door you already have a key for. So here is yours. Open your Notes app and write this sentence exactly. If I feel exposed starting this channel, then I will name the channel, the niche, and the voice. And none of those will be my name, my face, or my real location. Leave any one of those three blank and the fear refills the space. Read it once. Then write down the 3 channel name options you have already been turning over in your head. You know what they are. They have been sitting there waiting for you to write them down. Because here is what these 3 techniques have actually built. Solution 1 changed what failure means. Solution 2 changed what starting costs. And this one removes the last reason your brain had to keep the tab closed. The person who writes that sentence is not someone waiting to feel ready. The version of you that keeps reading without writing it is still stuck. That is you. Someone who looked at the architecture of your own fear, found the door, and walked through it without needing anyone to watch. You have 3 ways to dismantle it that did not exist in your thinking an hour ago. That was real. And now you are equipped in a way you were not before. The next time you feel the pull to quit, pick the first technique and apply it before you close your laptop. Because here's the truth about who you are now. You are not someone who is afraid of failure. You are someone who finally understands what you were actually afraid of and realize the format you chose was already built to protect you from it. That is not a small thing for you. Fear of failure was never about failing. It was always about being seen trying something that did not suit you. That is the difference between staying stuck and building something that actually fits.